Hey, folks, good morning and welcome to another episode of Steelers Morning Rush. I'm Alan Saunders. It is Wednesday, March 12th. Today will be the start of the new league year at 4 p.m. today. Moves that were agreed to previously can be made official, so the Steelers will officially announce their trade of DK Metcalf. The Eagles will officially release Darius Slay so the Steelers can sign him. The Steelers can also officially announce their signings of guys like Malik Harrison and Kenneth Gainwell, which happened last night. And also, maybe today, Aaron Rodgers will make a decision about where he wants to play quarterback, and we will know who will be the quarterback for the Steelers in 2025, or maybe not. I don't know. Aaron is a mercurial guy. I don't think he operates on anyone else's timeline. Although, as I say that, just making sure that notification was not, in fact, Aaron Rodgers signing with the Steelers. As I expect, it probably will be him at this point, but I don't know. I'm not going to predict when or how that is going to play out. Today, I want to talk about something else, though, and it's why the Steelers haven't done anything else outside of those moves that I mentioned, and the salary cap, and whether that's a potential impediment to that. So the Steelers came into free agency with about $60 million in salary cap space. They created another $7 million when they cut Larry Ogunjobi, and so far they've spent, well, we don't really know how much they spent. We know they spent $5 million on Jalen Warren. We know they spent about $5 million on Malik Harrison. 2-year deals for the Steelers are usually pretty balanced, where the first year is mostly mostly signing bonus. The second year is mostly salary, but they usually end up to be about the same in terms of cap hit in both years. Feel pretty good about assuming about $5 million from Malik Harrison. We don't know anything about what the Steelers deal with Darius Slay is. It was reported he only wanted to play 1 year. So if it's a 1-year deal, then it will be for the total of whatever he wants. I have no idea what that could be. And we have no idea what DK Metcalf's cap hit will be. The Steelers owed him $18 million on the contract they absorbed from the Seahawks, but that was non-guaranteed and will be torn up as part of the reported 5-year, $150 million contract extension. So good luck. It could be as low as $8 million. It could be 20. It just depends on the way his contract is structured. This brings me to a question by Desert Cactus, who is a regular commenter that we really love here on the YouTube channel. Appreciate him, and also sent a $10 super chat, and we, of course, really appreciate that. He says, hey, guys, the salary cap isn't real until it is. We as fans are told the salary cap becomes material when teams that kick the can into the future are compromising their ability to sign players when free agency opens up. For over the cap, the Saints were over $50 million over the cap last week. The Chiefs are currently over the salary cap. The Saints have acquired 5 players whose total costs exceed $100 million. The Chiefs have franchised the most expensive guard in the game and acquired 8 players whose total costs $130 million. You can make the same argument for the Bills. The narrative and the reality do not even come close to squaring. What are we missing? If these teams are forecasting explosive growth of the NFL, why aren't other teams getting the message? So there's a lot to unpack here, and there's really 2 different things happening at the same time. The best way to think about it, though, is that the salary cap is not cash. It is like a credit card, okay, where you have a limit to how much you can spend on your credit card, okay? And all that you don't spend now is more you'll be able to spend in the future, okay? And sometimes in the NFL, you can spend over your cap limit, not in cap, but you can do that by borrowing from future cap space. And there's several ways you can do that. You can sign contracts with void years in them, which spread out their signing bonus over years that do not exist. So that when that player stops being under contract with you, there's an automatic dead cap hit at the end. So let's say the Steelers want to do this in my Malik Harrison example, right? 2 years, $10 million, 5 and 5, bang, bang. Now let's say that's five in salary. Well, it wouldn't be able to be 5. It'd be like 6.2 in salary and 4.8 and 3.8 in signing bonus. Okay. But let's just use 5 and 5 because it makes the math easy. If you had 2 void years, then instead of splitting that $5 million signing bonus up over 2 seasons, you're splitting it over 4 seasons. Okay. Now, instead of a $2.5 million hit for his signing bonus in 25, it's 1.25. Okay. You've cut it in half. And in this instance, his salary will be the minimum in the first year, pretty much no matter what. And so you're looking at a $1.2 million minimum salary, a $2.5 million cap hit. You've halved Malik Harrison's cap hit for 2025, and you're not paying him any less. But what that means is you're going to have a $2.5 million cap hit in 2027 when Malik Harrison will be playing for someone else. Okay. So you can borrow that future cap hit with things like void years. You can also do it by cutting players that are currently under contract, which is basically the same concept, right? Larry Ogunjobi will play for the Bills this year and come for $3.5 million against the Steelers salary cap because his prorated signing bonus they still owe, even though he's not playing for them. Okay. Now, Is that smart? Is that good or is that bad? Assuming the salary cap will go up, it makes sense to spend now and pay later, because the percentage of the salary cap that payment is will reduce. So if the Steelers agree to a 5,150 for DK Metcalf this year, okay, and they even that contract, okay, so the cash going to DK Metcalf, let's say there was no signing bonus, fully guaranteed, okay, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 5 30s across the board. That's the way the salary cap is distributed. His 30% of the cap in 2029 will be far less than his percentage of the cap in 2025. And when you're signing a player and you're allocating a resource, the percentage of the cap is the thing that matters. It's how much of the cap is this guy worth, not how much cash. The cash is irrelevant. Teams can spend as much cash as they can make the cap work, or as little for that matter, up to 90% of the salary cap. So if you're going to structure this 5-year deal, you want it to be backloaded, because that will actually be backloaded in cash, because that'll actually be even in salary cap terms. So maybe his first cap hit is 15 and his last cap hit is 45, and we make a little gradient in between. And then you use signing bonuses and differentiating salaries over the years to make that work. That's perfectly sensible. There's no downside to making moves like that. Okay. Then you can restructure players' contracts to eliminate cap hits this year, add a signing bonus that'll be spread out, and push more money into the future. The Steelers will probably do that with someone like Pat Freiermuth or Alex Highsmith this year, which will save them $7 million this season, about for each player, and spread that $7 million over the remaining years of their contract by the signing bonus trick that we just talked about. And if they cut them, all that will be dead money. And if they keep them, their cap hit will go up now. So if you figured the cap rise when you did the salary, like we just talked about with the Metcalf thing, then restructuring makes sense. There was a point in TJ Watt's last contract where his cap hit had dipped so low as a percentage of the cap that it made a lot of sense to do that. Sometimes you are simply mortgaging your future against your present. Sometimes you're simply saying, you know what, we don't care. This is going to happen in the future. It's going to be bad. We want to win right now. The Steelers did that at the end of Ben Roethlisberger's tenure. They pushed cap money into the future and said, we don't care what happens in 22. We don't care what happens in 23. We will be rebuilding. We will be unable to be competitive because we are going to be aggressive with the salary cap now. And that backfired for the Steelers. I don't want to say that it's a bad decision for all teams. For the Steelers in particular, it happened to coincide with the COVID pandemic that reduced the salary cap. So all those projections we're talking about, they go out the window when that happens. You're screwed if you've been operating this way and maximizing your ability to spend. I don't think it's going to happen again, but I didn't think that was going to happen the first time either. So be warned. So if you do too much of this and you do too much spending now and push too much money into the future, you get into a situation where like the Saints are, where the New Orleans Saints this year have $50.7 million in dead cap. So while every other team is spending $279 million or thereabouts on players for this season. And in fact, some of those teams are spending more than that because they're pushing their deficit spending for the future, right? The Chiefs are doing that. They're pushing money into the future because they want to win it again now. So some teams are spending even more than that 279, functionally spending more than that 279 million. And the Saints can only spend 215. So you put yourself at a significant competitive disadvantage. The Saints are in cap hell. The Saints were bad last year. The Saints are going to be bad this year. The Saints are going to be bad next year. And all these contracts they're spending are just more stupidity on the part of the Saints because they're putting themselves into a situation where they can never get out of. The Browns have this ridiculous Deshaun Watson contract hanging over their head, and they keep restructuring it so that they can continue to do business, right? So like they restructured Watson again this year so they could sign Myles Garrett and be hunky-dory and whatever they're going to do in free agency. But now, at some point, Deshaun Watson is either going to get cut or be on their roster with a $90 million cap hit. They're pushing themselves towards a point in the future that will be untenable, and they will have to be bad. There will be no option. Of course, the Browns have figured out a way to be bad even when they're in good salary cap position, so that shouldn't be anything new to them. But yes, so teams like the Saints, teams like the Browns have put themselves in salary cap situations that are unwinnable. The Chiefs are probably not there, but they have aggressively pushed money into the future. The Chiefs have also, though, made a lot of cuts. They've let a lot of guys go that they have replaced with these other high-priced players. So I think the Chiefs are doing a better job of it. The way you know who is doing this is you go look at the 2026 cap space. The Saints have none, 24 million next year. The Browns have 2. The Dolphins are 15 in the hole next year already. Okay, the Chiefs have 50. That's not a lot. It's like the 8th fewest or something like that. The Bills, 33 million. The Eagles, 51 million. So those teams that have been aggressively spending now are impacting their ability to spend in the future. The Steelers have $164 million in 2026 cap space right now, pending Rodgers, Metcalf, whatever. Seahawks have 169. So coming into next offseason, the Steelers are going to be in a far better situation, $100 million better than the Chiefs, $150 million better than the Saints, $165 million better than the Browns, and $180 million better than the Dolphins. So the Steelers are rebuilding. It makes sense for them to be there. So I hope that answered the question. Why you see teams in bad situations and still be able to do things. You can. The cap is very real. But no one move is ever prevented from happening by the salary cap. It takes a long time for a team to get into a situation where the salary cap starts to hurt them. The Saints have been there. They will continue to be there for a while. The Chiefs and the Bills and the Eagles and apparently the Dolphins, which I wasn't even aware of, and the Browns, or the Browns have been there. Those other teams are headed there. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But it will mean that there's a point in the future where they're not able to keep up with everybody else. They'll have to have some of those dull, boring Steelers free agency periods that everyone liked to complain about. Well, that's why the Steelers had those, because they overspent on their own people, and then they didn't have any cap space to add any free agents. So, yeah, that's the way it works. If you have any other questions about the salary cap, I feel like this is a very good format for those. So please leave them here. Maybe we'll get to another episode coming up because it is certainly pertinent right now. And the last thing I'll say is the Steelers salary cap situation remains very good. And the salary cap is not a reason the Steelers haven't done anything that they haven't done. I mean, in general, you don't want to overpay people based on the cap because that's a bad idea. So like the salary cap existence is the reason the Steelers didn't give Sam Darnold $150 million to come play here. But they have enough cap space that they could have made more moves than they did. And I think it's more about wanting to know what they're paying for their quarterback, wanting to maintain those comp picks that we talked about, and just in general, not wanting to overpay in free agency, which is how you end up in trouble like the Browns and like the Saints. All right, that's all I got for today. Sorry for the longer than usual episode, but that is a difficult question. I want to make sure we get to it. Yes, still haven't signed Aaron Rodgers, so we're good. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications here on YouTube. And until next time, enjoy.